Good evening. Welcome to the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners April meeting. We've already had the Pledge of Allegiance prior to us going into executive session. We're now out of executive session, and we're going to start the monthly meeting. Just a copy of agendas up front, and welcome everyone here.
Make a motion, we resume.
Good idea. So Peter's making a motion, we resume the regular session. Seconded?
I second.
Okay, so it's Stephen Baker, actually. Seconded by Peter Inkledon. And the time?
I got 8:05.
8:05. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And we're back in business.
And we're back in business. So tonight, we have just one set of minutes to approve from the March 12th meeting, which I've circulated amongst the board. And I'd look for a motion to adopt the March 12th minutes.
Make the motion.
Peter Inkledon, and second?
Second.
On the motion, should be a correction. I did make a mistake when you had asked who was the president of the Benevolent Association. It is Mr. Horn, it's not Mr. Vaccaro, so that was
Okay.
my mistake.
Okay, I'll
So
correct
that's the correction that should be in there.
Okay, so you want to second the minutes there?
Oh,
You already said?
you already second, I just
Stephen?
wanted to...
You want second? I don't-
No, it's no problem, I just wanted to make the correction.
That's fine, I'll make the correction. And it's Mr. Horn that I'm going to be putting in there,
Yes.
correct? Okay. All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Okay. The March fire activity report, Chief Grogan?
Yes,
You can probably give
Commissioner.
us some of April, too, but March...
Well, actually, yeah, I thought about that after. We are well into April, but right now I'm just going to touch on what happened back in March. Briefly, we did have 325 total alarms, 9 actual fire-related alarms. There was a uptick in EMS and rescue. I think it was more of car accidents and what have you. We did provide a mutual aid only on 2 occasions.
Okay, that's done.
There's a bad connection there, and plus that's your bad mic.
Okay.
It's his better side.
So, is he gonna give
Okay.
him a microphone?
I'm always in trouble.
No, he's good.
He's good? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, back to mutual aid given twice, received once, that we needed it. Vehicle maintenance remains ongoing. Ruscon Service continues to handle major work. Minor items are being handled in-house by maintenance. That's primarily, changing small bulbs and stuff. He's not doing actual mechanic work. We have had to deal with some major repairs. Both engine 27 and engine 31 required some significant repairs involving fuel injectors. This was allowing fuel into the crankcase. Fortunately, they were, 27s was caught plenty early enough. 31, there was some additional damage to the camshaft, but, that's why you will notice the Ruscon bill being a little higher. That's also in part because of the later meeting. Half of that would have already been done. That also includes extensive work that was done on our Ladder 16, which has been, back in service. 31 remains out. It went from Ruscon after the motor work and other service. From there, it went directly to the body shop since it was already across the bridge. That's to have the damage repaired from the accident from the ice storm, and that is being primarily covered by insurance. So, and I expect that back next week. Then we'll send 29 and Ladder 15. So it's just continues ongoing, one right after another. Fire Prevention Office continues to spend much time working with the building departments. We've got a lot of numerous major projects around this district that's really kept our hands full. There's a lot to stay on top of it. And this on top of his regular scheduled inspections. He also took part in a follow-up meeting with Captain Pinterval and Eastchester School Administration in regards to the recently completed inspections. Captain Pinterval is present this evening and is prepared to report on same with additional follow-up. We received the safety inspection and review this through our insurance carrier. Apparently they do it every 5 or 6 years. Spent most of the day, I went around with them. basically, they look and they make recommendations. I did just receive the full report, so I haven't had the actual time to review it thoroughly. But just quickly, I noted there's recommendations and some suggestions. I did take note that much of it, this board is actually in the process of dealing with, this in part with the work that you are having completed in the firehouses. These are basically things the insurance company says it'd be a good idea to take care of, and we are already in that process, so I will report back on that. I will say there were no, what they call significant concerns. It was really just basically, they recommend this, they suggest that, and it's just a service from our insurance carrier, you know, loss prevention, so to speak. At this point, you know, everything else was pretty much just regular administration work and keeping up on that front office, again, you know, with John and Mary Lou. But I just want to close. One, the call that we had mutual aid for in town back at towards the end of March. It was actually on March 23rd, about 3 o'clock in the morning. I think it was 3:10 a.m. We had a report of a fire in a 3-story building, residential, commercial. Report of fire, an active fire with people trapped. Came in for 829 Post Road. I want to commend quick and decisive action by all. Saw that all residents were safely evacuated. One had to be through a rear fire escape. The inside egress, the stairway was blocked with smoke. This all under the command of Captain Ferrara, primarily Group 3, although there were some mutuals, so he had a different crew. And, you know, basically, they also, everybody's evacuated. The fire was quickly contained and extinguished, and a limited extension. They kept it from getting up into the cockloft, which would have been very common in a building such as that. I just have to commend Captain Ferrara, you know, quite seasoned and very trusting. A little extra concern that night because it turns out 4 of the guys working.
4 or 3?
4, one was just off probation, just a year, and another 3 were just recently hired out of the academy. Basically, they were seeing a real fire for the first time. Together with the assistance of the lieutenants on duty and the seasoned firefighters, it was excellent teamwork. Nobody got hurt, and this fire was quickly contained, again, as I said, and extinguished, and the damage was limited. And it was just another great job by Eastchester firefighters. And again, under Captain Ferrara, it was just a little extra stress level for him, but he handled it very, very well, as he always does.
I stopped by that scene about 5 o'clock in the morning, and what was interesting was Red Cross had already set up across the street. There were, I think, 11 people displaced from the building, and the convenience store owner opened up his store, and he set up coffee for them and brought people in. I know he had some involvement he lived right across the street. But
he was actually one of the people that
who was dislocated.
The poor, yes, I felt terrible when I found that.
Right, but he was, I think it was J&C or J&C Deli.
Well, no, you had the deli, the delicatessen, the Italian deli downstairs, has been around a long time. I'm sure there's
I'm talking
many
about the
people.
store across the street. Who he opened up. He
A
let
lot
people-
on things. Parish was the name. He had
Right.
a lot on things. Luncheonette.
He opened up, and Red Cross put their triage in there. And you think about it, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Red Cross was already there, so it was maybe an hour or so after the fire got under control. Red Cross was aiding the people. I saw a couple of our probate firefighters, and they looked like they'd been through a storm. They were,
Yes,
you know,
but
their
they were-
gear had the look of used gear at
They
that
were
point.
actually smiling year to year. It was a good job, and they did an excellent job. Everybody worked
Everybody
well.
seemed like they worked out perfectly well, you know, for a tough situation. I think it was about 20 degrees that night. It wasn't a warm night.
It was chilly.
Yeah,
It was chilly, yes. Yeah.
yeah. So, all good. So, that's your report, Chief? We're all good?
Yes, that's good. Yeah.
Okay, tonight we invited our fire inspector, Captain Thomas Pintaval. Captain Pintaval does the inspections for Tuckahoe School and the Bronxville School every year. This year we asked him to go and check the Eastchester schools because they hired a private contractor to do it, and we wanted our fire inspector to inspect the building. He came back with roughly 400 violations in that building, and apparently he's making progress, and he can give us his. And we probably should do this more often, Captain Pintavel, because the amount of construction going on in town and the amount of work you're doing, and Captain Pintavel's office, if anybody hasn't seen it, you might go there if you need a fuel tank checked or something like that. It's an extremely organized office where it's, he's very detailed, and his firefighter Vitarello is also extremely detailed. So they're a perfect team to do this, and they're both code certified.
He's a little bit more detailed than I am, Commissioner. I can't take all the credit. I just wanted to touch on what the chief said. A couple of things with that fire at 829 Post Road. Number one, there was not a working smoke detector in the apartment. When we do our inspections of multiple dwellings, we cannot go in the apartments. We're going to start sending out, I made a contact with an upstate fire inspector and see what they do about, we're going to be sending out basically affidavits to the multiple dwelling owners. They're going to have to sign it, verifying that they actually installed the smoke detectors, because it's only by the grace of God that those people got out that night.
Right.
Actually, can I just elaborate what you just mentioned about, for one thing, this was a combination. You had commercial on the first floor, and what he's saying is the actual private residence. In other words, when you do an inspection of a building like that, you're looking at the commercial, you're looking at the common area.
The common areas, we do not go into the apartments.
Meaning there were maybe in the hallways and stuff, but unless the residents actually invite us in, he can't go in.
I believe, actually, Lieutenant Baker's here tonight, but the hallway smoke detector, I believe, was activated. It was beeping. But there was nothing. I believe the gentleman in the apartment woke up, and that's why they actually got out. So I encourage.
I found that out afterwards. Yes, if there was a smoke detector in the fire apartment,
They might have gotten
it would have
alerted
been an
earlier.
earlier notification.
And the other item is, if you live in a building with a fire escape, it's a good idea not to put a dresser or something in front of the window leading to the fire. Because that apartment, the window, the fire apartment, the window was actually blocked leading to the fire escape. So they made it out the front door of the apartment. But so, you know, I encourage all the residents, if you don't have smoke detectors in your apartment and you live in a multiple dwelling, they can call the fire, our office, and we'll be more than happy to contact the building owner and make sure they get put in. It's in a rental, it's the building owner's responsibility. A co-op, it's a slippery slope because those are you own shares. That we're going to try through education to encourage the residents, because they're a co-op. It doesn't have as quick access to a unit as a rental does. An owner of a building, and I'm not an attorney, but I believe has more rights to go into a unit he's renting out. A co-op or a condo, especially in a condo, you own the unit. So we're going to try to encourage people to make sure they install the smoke detectors and they change the batteries twice a year, because they're no good unless they're working. To get back to the school inspections, Commissioner, you had sent me an email. I apologize, never sent it back to you, a reply to you. As far as the gentleman who does the school inspections, the state inspections, the state law, believe it or not, says he does not have to be certified by New York State. And I found it earlier. I forgot to highlight it. Basically, it says the school can hire someone who, in their opinion, is properly trained. Now, that's about the most subjective thing I've ever heard. I didn't make extra copies of the law, but if you want, I'll show you after.
I was having a hard time finding this fellow's name on the state list of...
I don't think you will. I have a feeling he may not be on that list.
Right.
So it's a little, you know, it's kind of a... I have a lot of problems with the state law. I understand there are parts of the state that are very rural, that they may not have a full-time fire inspector, but I think in Westchester, most communities have a full-time fire inspector.
Right.
So to me, it's kind of silly that, they can hire somebody, hire basically another gentleman to do the inspections.
Right, and to push the point forward, we do the school inspections in Tuckahoe and Bronxville for free.
And all the private schools.
And all the private schools. They do not have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on a private guy, because you do it. I mean, you do the inspections, and you do it over, and these are every 11 months, as you explained to me, every 11 months.
The public schools are every 11 months. The private schools, New York State requires them. They're done every year. The period starts November 1st, with the forms due December 16th. So those, for whatever reason, they don't rotate. The public schools, they rotate them every 11 months, so it's a different month. This year, I believe the period starts July 15th. So, and then the actual report would be due September 1st.
Right. So we'll be willing to do the Eastchester schools. They don't need to go hire somebody.
The chief and I think pretty much, let Dr. Moran know that, we're here, and it's, as you can see, there were quite a few violations, as you were mentioning. Firefighter Vitarello and I did return to the schools the week of March 30th. They were on their spring break. It's a little easier for us to inspect the schools when the students are not there. It's also less of a distraction, especially with the younger children. They see a couple firemen come in and, there goes the lesson for the day. So they have short attention spans. If you want, I'll go down the order. I believe I put a copy on all of your, in front of all of you. Ann Hutch was the first one we did, the follow-up inspection. The major violations were corrected. They had repaired the rescue windows. They were all opening. That school it was a concern with the rescue windows not opening, but in Ann Hutch, all of the windows are the same size. So it's not, some schools are very specific. They had to retrofit the classrooms with a larger window because it didn't meet the state law. Ann Hutch, all the windows meet the state law. So in some cases, they simply relocated the rescue window sticker. But there were operable windows in every classroom. It was a question of simply, some of them just had to be maintenance on them. Apparently, it's an ongoing issue with the windows. As far as something that Commissioner Napolitano mentioned I think it was last month's meeting about fire doors being blocked open. I think it was maybe the way he misread the report. I was talking about the classroom doors. It's quite common. Teachers like to get ventilation, so they usually put the nice, brass door holder on it. Those are a violation of the fire code because in an emergency, more than likely the teacher would forget to kick it up and, the oxygen could fuel a fire. So that's what we were talking about. In all 4 schools, I don't think we came across any fire doors that were in the corridors that were blocked open. They're all on magnets, so when the fire alarm activates, it releases the fire door. There were no obstructions in the corridors. There were a couple in the high school that they had alcoves that they were storing things. We're having them remove that, but there was nothing that was obstructing the actual egress. So that is something that, right away, we normally just make them remove it right in front of us. The other main issue that we had in Ann Hutch, which was resolved, and I'm trying to see what page it was on, was the electrical issues in the kitchen and the service area. They basically had one extension cord feeding every piece of equipment in the service area. The food, the warmers, the cash registers. How that thing didn't spark is a miracle. I think they hit the lottery there. So they did have an electrician come in and run additional outlets. The other one was, believe it or not, they had a convection oven plugged into an extension cord. They added an outlet for that. Some of the other issues that are still open, they did supply the fire alarm reports. They had been inspected. It was a question that they submit the reports to the district. So the district did forward us the reports after the inspection. So the alarms had been serviced and tested.
And did we know if that was done by a certified inspector, or is
it was? No, it was done by, I don't remember what company it was off the top of my head, Commissioner, but it was done by a licensed New York State.
Okay.
So those were the major ones. They still have the issues with the extension cords. And that's not exclusive to Eastchester. It happens here in Bronxville. It happens in Tuckahoe. Most of these school buildings were not designed for modern technology. They were not designed for smart boards and computers. If you had told someone 50 years ago about a smart board, they'd probably look at you like you were crazy. So they have to run quite a bit of conduit to put it to outlets for these smart boards. I don't know why the manufacturers don't put longer cords on the smart boards, but that's not for me to decide. So they are addressing those. Those were the major issues that were still open at Ann Hutch, just looking at this quickly. If anyone has any questions on that one, or you want me to keep going? Or?
Very good.
Greenvale had less violations than Ann Hutch did. Most of those were corrected except for the extension cords. Again, The super there, the custodian there had taken care of most things. He's waiting for a couple of items there, batteries in there, emergency lighting in the gym, our special units, special battery packs. So those, I think, are still on back order. Again, we received the fire alarm report. He had less, I would say, major issues there. We have to follow up, because again, they're going to be keeping electricians busy, I think, for quite a while, putting outlets in. And that was pretty much the highlights on Greenville. Waverly, which had the smallest amount of violations on our first inspection. Again, we received the fire alarm report. They had cleared, they had a couple of things in the hallway which they removed. Apparently, they had just been finishing up testing, I guess, or screening, I think, for the incoming kindergarten students. Sometimes they kind of just screen them in the hallway. So, you know, obviously they can't do that, so they're going to find another room to do that. So I had them remove the table that was out there. That's the newer wing of Waverly. It's actually a very wide corridor, but still, you know, you can't obstruct the corridor. Another issue that we've had in all three of the elementary schools was teachers putting strings up in front of the windows to hang the artwork. It's a danger to the students if they have to get out through the rescue window, and it's a danger to our men coming in because if that string was to come down, it could tangle up in a firefighter's air pack. So those were all removed, I'm pretty sure, universally. I don't think we found any of those in the high school. I don't think you find too many teachers putting up artwork in the high schools. They are allowed to hang up artwork. It has to just be done properly, and, you know, so that's what we handled with that. And like I said, Waverly, I think the custodian there, I think, was probably the longest tenured out of any of them, and he pretty much had everything taken care of, I think, within a couple of days. We went back. That was actually our second follow-up. I think I was there the following week. He'd already taken care of a couple items. So he was definitely on top of it. You have a couple of single pieces of paper. When we initially did the high school, middle school, we were there for approximately 6.5 hours. And I have to be honest with you, we didn't do the office building that day because it was 4:30 when we finished, and we did not do the garage, so we had to do it up as a follow-up. The garage, I would say there were no major issues. There was some storage in an air handling room. It's not uncommon. You know, whether it's an apartment building or a school, everybody's kind of pushed for space. So they try to shove things wherever they can. You know, so they were going to remove that. The office, the annex as they call it, they had a couple of extension cords there. That was a little easier because I think they're just going to relocate the equipment. It won't be the problem that they have. Last but not least, the high school, middle school. That was, as you commented, the largest amount of problems we had. Again, we received the fire alarm report, and it had been maintained properly. We go there. The guys were just there the other day. I heard it come in, so we know obviously it works. But they did have it tested. Some of the items there, again, were the extension cords, main one. They, believe it or not, ran out of rescue window stickers. They ordered like a case, and there were so many missing that they had to order more. You know, we were all in high school, and, you know, those things are pretty inviting for a high school student to start peeling off the window when the teacher's not in there. So there were more windows in the school without rescue windows than there were with the rescue window sticker.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes. Nothing could be proven. There's nothing. Yes. There's no video evidence. The acetylene issue was the big issue we had, and this is another issue that I don't like about the state law. Basically, New York State Education Department grants them their CO. So they have an opinion from New York State Ed that they can keep the acetylene because they're considering it used for equipment. I have a little problem with that, but what we did get them to do was the teacher had 3 cylinders in the classroom. So we had them remove 2 cylinders to an outside storage outside the building, and they're only going to keep the one unit, the one cylinder that she's actually using. It's a smaller cylinder. It's not the larger cylinder that's as tall as I am that you would see on, you know, a welder's you know, rig, but it's still a concern. So they are going to. They did remove the 2 extra, I would call them, cylinders. So we are working with them, you know, through education. A lot of what we do with these inspections every year with the schools here is educating the custodians and the administration of what they should be doing. So my hope is that they correct all these, and if we go back next February, that we'll have a lot less. You know, in fairness to the Eastchester schools, and when we do Bronxville, as an example, because it's a very large building, Bronxville School, we end up with about 2.5 pages every year, because the custodians and the administration keep on top of things, but not to throw the teachers under the bus, but, you know, a teacher will decide, you know, they want to have a coffee pot in the classroom, and there's no outlet there, so they run an extension cord. So these things happen. That's why we do periodic inspections. I always say fire inspections, they're like a snapshot. You know, we could go to a restaurant today and not find any violations, and in 2 weeks, the guys could go there for a call and they could find 3. We do the best we can. We get there as often as we can and try to catch as many violations as we can. If you have any questions, if anyone has any.
No, this has been very good.
The grounds department, where do they get their fuel from?
The grounds department at each, I would have to ask, Commissioner, they might have outside tanks. I did not see, there were no interior tanks.
But
Commissioner?
they're,
So the Eastchester schools,
yes.
like us, I believe they fuel up at the town DPW yard.
What
They're
do they-
shared service.
Where do they keep their fuel cans for all their lawnmowers?
They have the required flammable liquid cabinets, and they keep them in there.
Outside or inside?
They're inside. They're allowed to keep them inside as long as they're in the approved lockers. They're the, you know, the $800 yellow cabinets.
Right. And none stays on their trucks while they're in the garage, right?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And we made sure they have their snow blowers. They store in the garage. They ran them dry, so there's no gas in the actual snow blowers, because we obviously went in April. So we try to make sure they're maintaining as little fuel in the building as possible.
And all the grammar schools have the same thing, right? They don't keep no gas in the boiler rooms?
No, no, not in the boiler rooms, no. Any flammable liquids were in cabinets. They had the cabinets at the high school and the middle school. They have the chemistry rooms. They had any flammable cabinets were in they had smaller lockers, but they have them in the yellow lockers, you know, the approved lockers, which is basically, if anyone, the commissioners don't know, it's a certified cabinet that if there was a fire in the room, it's not going to get into that cabinet. We have them in all the firehouses in the shop.
Stations, we have them also.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
So, yes.
Sometimes they store them where they park their trucks.
Well, you know, Commissioner, they knew we were coming, but like I said, they had them all in the lockers when we were there.
Okay.
You know,
That's
we
what I
try to,
All right, thank you.
Captain Pintoval, we got a lot of constructions going up throughout the town. Bronxville has a major project. There's a project in Tuckahoe. There's always projects in Eastchester. How much time do you spend on those, in the development stage of those projects, and then
we're
reviewing it?
involved pretty much from the beginning. From the planning stages, we usually get involved with reviewing the plans. Usually the chief and I, when it's in the planning stages, I'll always send or look over the plans with the chief for access. Right now, there's 2 in Bronxville. There's the Kensington Road project, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. They're excavating as we speak. The other proposal is no work is being done is the 100 Pondfield Road building, which is the old Morgan Manhattan, was it?
Yep.
Years ago.
Yeah.
The old warehouse, which is behind that alleyway where Lang's Deli is. So there's a proposal for renovating that building, turning it into apartments. Tuckahoe, we have the Crestwood Law.
You also have the hospital, the big.
Thank you, Commissioner. The hospital is ongoing, the cancer center. They're also finishing up another renovation of their 3rd floor. In Tuckahoe, we have the Crestwood Lofts, which is on corner of Lincoln and Columbus. That's actually moved along. That moved along because that was modular. That was all prefabbed, except for the foundation. So that actually went up fairly quickly. The 2 on Main Street, they're moving a little bit more slowly. They're a ways off. In Eastchester, you have the Summerfield proposal, which I believe they've gotten their variances, but we still have not seen the plans, the construction plans. They have to now go to the planning board. They went through the zoning board. I believe they got all their variances. And then there's another project on Jackson. I'm not sure what number Jackson is going to be, but that's also, I believe senior housing. I think they're calling it senior housing.
Yes, Jackson Ave, another one that was on the table many years. It's been resurrected. Part of the issue with that is half of the property is Eastchester, half is Tuckahoe. And, yeah, that's another one that seems to have come back to life.
In the Avalon in town, we have the Avalon building, and the Avalon building down in Jersey made news. I don't know if this is the same construction as the Avalon in New Jersey.
I believe it is wood frame, Commissioner.
Wood frame?
No, there was a lot of,
Is that wood frame? Is that,
the C studs, a lot of the metal stud work in there.
I wasn't the inspector when it was built, that's what I'm
But
trying to
see,
remember.
ours is completely sprinkled.
Yes, it is. Ours
Even
is
the
sprinkled.
closets. This Avalon was built,
It's all
see, New York State, it required
Complete sprinkler system.
complete sprinkler, every room, every closet, every hallway.
And they also have a fire pump. We make sure that they submit the annual reports on it. They had a couple issues, matter of fact, on their last report. They were minor with gauges had to be replaced, so we try to keep up on that. Their fire pump, for whatever reason, seems to have issues, so we try to make sure they maintain the fire pump. That building is equipped with a fire pump, the Avalon.
Yeah, what that is some buildings, if they don't have adequate water pressure or supply, the fire department on the design stage will insist on a fire pump be placed in a room that supplements the sprinkler system.
They have one, that side of the railroad tracks is I guess you would say dead-end mains. It's supplied, there are water mains supplying it, but sometimes they have pressure issues. The hospital also has a water pump,
Right.
A fire pump, because they can't get enough pressure up to the 6th floor.
That was a debate when that was being put in. John Santa Cruz had quite
Yes,
a
a lot
debate
of
with
debate.
them. When they,
We're still very popular over there with the administration, I think, because of that. They fought that for many years.
Yeah.
But that construction is moving along, the cancer center, and they just finished a cardiac unit. They just added a cardiac cath unit. Matter of fact, we're doing the final inspection there tomorrow. That was a smaller renovation. And I believe, then coming down the plans, I think shortly I believe they're working on their ICUs is the next renovation over there. I believe that's what I'd heard. They're going to be renovating the ICUs.
right, and what happens when they put these large medical units in, Tuckahoe has one, Bronxville has one, I'm sure Eastchester has them as well. Those units have a lot of hazmat equipment inside when it comes to radiation and scanning machines and that type of thing. So when the fire department responds to those situations, there's a lot of electricity pumping through those buildings.
Well, the MRIs, I believe they draw 480 volts, which is rather, matter of fact, the last time that Tuckahoe had the incident at 115 Main Street,
Main Street. They had a couple of times.
they've had it twice, caused by mops, actually. They would put the mops up against the panel in the...
Well, that was at least the one time.
One time, I'm sure it's one time. Yeah, that's what actually shorted it out, so...
That makes sense.
There's a lot of power running through those, and the other danger for our firefighters with the MRIs is they can't enter the area, because with all the metal that we wear, they would get sucked right into the magnet. So there's always a magnetic charge in those. There's only one way to dump it, and if they ever dump it, from what I hear, it's like, millions to recharge it, basically. The hospital and all the areas, we make sure they put up the the magnetic safety signs. That way our men know. They even have it on the skylight at the hospital. That way if the chief sends someone to take out the skylight of the MRI room, they are aware that there's actually a magnet in that room, because the tool will go right down. They're pretty powerful. So there is a lot of ongoing construction, and that's just the major projects. We also have any renovation of a commercial space. What we're trying to have now is when there's a generator or a solar panel installation, even on homes, we ask the building departments to notify us. We're trying to keep a list. That way the captains and the officers know when they're responding if there's a solar panel, because basically even if you turn the power off to the house, it's not feeding the house anymore, because that interprets it as a power outage for solar panels, but there is still power at the panels, and if you go up on the roof, there is current in those wires. So
Is the county putting that in their CAD? When you give the information to the,
we have to, we have to start putting it, we have to put it in ourselves, and we've been trying to do it as best we can, but it's just the two of us, so we're trying to do them as we can. The generators is another issue, so those we try to put in also, because the generator and the solar panels, we actually now go out and actually inspect, quote unquote, the site. The biggest thing I'm looking for is the signage on the panels, so that way, especially if it's a generator, that the firefighters know if they turn the breaker off, it's going to get backfed by the generator. Because, people like to hide generators. Nobody wants to see an ugly generator in their backyard. So they love to put bushes around it. And the towns and the villages make them put barriers around them to keep the noise down so the neighbors don't hear it. So all those things considered, you could be at a house with a generator running and you may never even hear it, especially with the engine out front running. So we're trying to make sure they have all the signage on the breakers. That way our firefighters know if they hit the main, that they still have a generator. They have to go secure the generator if there is an electrical problem in the house. So that's something that we've been trying to do.
There was actually an issue at Middleton Road fire. There was a generator, but I believe the panels properly marked, and they were aware that they had shut down both before because that was an electrical fire. It was actually shorting wire that just killing the main breaker wouldn't have done it. They also had to go and shut down the generator. Yeah.
So those are things that we said, we try to always keep a handle on. And then just like the chief said, we have our regular, routine fire inspections that we do every day. Definitely keeps us busy.
Very good, Captain. I mean, it's a very good report.
When you missed it, have you seen anything on this proposed hotel on Marbledale?
Oh, yes, the last, I forgot about that one, thank you, Chief. The site plan did not meet the fire code for our access. Any building over 30 feet tall has to have access for our aerial ladders. And their proposal did not have the proper, it has to have it along one entire side. It's one time that the fire code is actually pretty specific. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Not with the building itself, but they'll probably have to rework the access for us. Because the way they had it, they were going to put a canopy in, and there was no way we could turn the truck in there. It was probably physically impossible to get the ladder there. And obviously in a hotel, you're dealing with, I think it's 100 rooms. I don't even know how many rooms they're proposing. I forget the number of rooms.
I'm actually a little surprised. They've asked for our opinions on impact to the fire department for like the Main Street, Midland. Nobody's touched base with me on a hotel. Hotel's a whole nother ballgame. You don't know how many people are there.
And they're unfamiliar, and the thing with the hotels are the people are unfamiliar with the building. You hope that people who live in an apartment building know where the steps are. You don't use you don't use the elevator in a fire. But people on vacation or on business, most people don't read that sign on the back of the door that tells you where the exit signs are.
I always do. I always look when I'm in the building.
Well, I actually...
Where's the exit door from, how many doors down from where I am?
That's the same thing I do. My family thinks I'm crazy when I go on vacation. Disney World, I was doing that, so, it's, you want to make sure. But that is one, the only thing they're only at the site plan stage right now, the hotel, and looking at it, they're going to have to rework the entrance because I didn't even show it to the chief because it didn't even meet it anyway, and they have to show that we can get the truck in there to begin with. It's kind of going to be tight because they want to obviously build as big a building as they can for the most rooms to make the most money. So that was the other one, I think, and I think that's the only other major project, Chief. I can't
Well,
think.
we should do this more
At
often.
least for now.
Captain Pindevel, over there in the Eastchester Review, on the February 27th issue, the village manager in Tuckahoe, and I circled it, it says, "We argue that this hotel would put a drain on our police and fire service as well as the infrastructure like water and sewer system, if this thing goes through." And that was from the village manager from Tuckahoe, and was in the Eastchester Review of the 27th of February.
Okay, they had not discussed as far as the impact. Usually the chief discusses the impact with the building department
Usually
as far
part
as
of an
services.
environmental impact study, and they want our opinion. Like I actually went to planning board meetings to express my concerns with the Main Street and Midland Avenue Bridge. I went to one night because they just want something in writing. I said, part of the problem, especially when there's variances, supposedly, you might have been on these boards, you can only look at that project by itself. I mean, I try and insist, but what people aren't realizing, we got to look at the whole district. We've got more places going up. Combined, there's a big draw on the fire service, and we will need more resources, more people. It's only a matter of time. It's a perfect case, the hotel. We don't have enough manpower on duty. If we had a fire in a hotel dealing with multiple rooms of how many occupants, it's just super labor intensive. And it's taking its toll as you combine everything. But planning or zoning, well, chief, we can only look at this project by itself. Well, it's...
The other thing to consider with the codes is the developers always use the term that, we're building it up to code. The code is a bare minimum of what, it's not the gold standard. The state codes are a minimum. So, personally, it's like, if you have children and they come home and they brought home a 67, let's say, they just passed, or they brought home a 90, I think you'd rather have the 90 than the 67. So the codes are, we do the best we can. We have to enforce what we have. But, you know, when people run behind the shield of, oh, it's built up to code, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the gold standard. So that's something else to consider and something.
And they often try and skirt that, too.
Yeah, you know, so.
Well, that was well said, Captain. I mean, I think it was great, your presentation, and I think we should do it more often. I think it's
Would you like me to stay,
educational for the board.
Commissioner, in case the public has a question, or do you want me to?
Or you can stay if you like, or
Okay.
you can, it's your call.
No, it's up to you. If you have any other questions during open business.
The only thing I wanted to comment on was, these reports are very, very thorough, very well done, very impressed. Somehow you weren't able to get all the buildings done in a single day, were you?
No, we did them over 3 days, and I was trying to figure out, actually yesterday, because I should have done it that week, because the CRS is getting worse. I believe it took us about 15 hours, and that was 2 of us.
Right.
And like I said, we got to the point at the high school, middle school, we actually were doing both sides of the corridor at the same time, and it took us about 6.5 hours. The shortest one was Waverly, was I think 2 hours. It's the smallest building. So
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, with the size of the buildings, the size of the crew doing it, the amount of things you actually have to inspect, and the laws of physics actually applying to you, correct?
Exactly.
You have to be, so.
if I was still in high school in shorts and sneakers, I don't think I could have run through them in one day. So it's a lot. It's a lot to look at. You really have to take your time, and a lot of times the extension cords. If you're not really looking for them, you're not going to find them because
These are outstanding reports, and I just wanted
thank
to
you.
comment on that for the record.
Thank you, Captain Vindeval. And does anybody, I'll ask now, does anybody have any questions in the, Mary, why don't you ask questions now?
I'd like to know, did anyone see the report from the independent investigator?
Yes.
Excuse me, did you see the report also? And
we did see the reports. The inspections were done. The third-party inspections were done in August. Unfortunately, something else I don't like about the state reports, they use what I like to call the Ouija board. If you've ever seen them, they use that, I think you've seen them, Commissioner. It just has codes. You know, it doesn't tell you where that violation was, how many of that violation there were, and I can tell you that there was nowhere near as many as this.
Well, there were very few. There were like...
Matter of fact, the gentleman, I don't believe he walks into the classrooms. I've heard it from a couple, you know, employees off the record who told me that's how he's able to go through the buildings in one day. He does not go into the classrooms. The most important thing, besides the egress doors in the school, are the rescue windows. You want to make sure they're open. The best maintained schools in the world, most of the older buildings, technically under the law, they're not supposed to use the rescue window for ventilation. The thought behind that is that they don't put a screen on the window. That way, in the event of a fire, you know, the teacher's not kicking a screen out of the way. The older buildings, I don't drive by and walk into the school and cite people for it, because if there's no screen, if they want to let the bugs in, you know, that's their choice. The newer buildings, the rescue window is designed solely for that, so most times they don't open it, because the way it is, the window opens completely, and there's really no safeguard, you know, for, you know, of anyone falling out of it. So you have to open those windows. And even, especially now, we did this in the summer where they're opening the windows more. If you do it in the winter, like we did, you know, you get a bad winter, you get ice, you get snow, things start to rust. You have to actually open those windows. And the custodians, you know, they're not opening the windows. And if the teacher doesn't tell them, you know, the window doesn't open, that's why we go in and we make sure we open every window. You know, we check. And you know, listen, we're human. You know, Firefighter Vitarella and myself are human. We may have missed some things. I'm not saying we caught everything, but we try to at least catch, you know, the vast majority of what we can. And that's what we try to do. I don't know if, did I answer your question?
you did, I have one more
Go
question
right
and
ahead.
comment. I'd like to know whether anyone has any information as to whether the third-party investigator did even though it was coded, his minimal violations, if he did a follow-up, as you did the week after and then a second time, just for a point of information.
The way the law reads, they do a points system for the violations. If you're under 10 points, this is something else that I find kind of comical. It allows the school district to self-inspect the reinspection. So basically, you know, it's like saying, okay, you know, we found this. You can just go back and certify that you fixed it. So that's how it worked. I don't think he went back because he did not sign it. You know, normally when we go back to Bronxville, there's a separate line on the sheet that I re-inspected it and the date I re-inspected it. And normally, even like I said, even Tucko, Bronxville, normally they have more than 10 points on the initial inspection. So they won't hand it in until I do the re-inspection, because otherwise they won't get their CO for the year. And state ed actually grants them their CO every year. So that's why we do the re-inspections. The private schools are a little different. They don't grant COs to the private schools, but it's basically our responsibility to make sure that they correct the violations. So that's St. Joe's, ICS, and Chapel School. So we make sure we go back and they correct the violations there.
And Mary, what happened here was Captain Tom and I were talking last summer, and I think it's a 5-day window from the time of their inspection. They have to turn over their inspection to the fire chief. The superintendent of schools is by law required to turn it over to the fire chief. It's within 5 to 10 days.
Well, actually, we're actually the chief. It mentioned the chief, well, actually the chief is mentioned in the meeting, has to be notified when the inspector is meeting with the superintendent to go over the violations.
So we were left out of that loop. So we went back to the school and said, give us your report. And there was a little pushback where we had to actually foil them for the report, then file a FOIL appeal letter, and then foil the New York State Education Department because we knew they had a copy of the report. And that's how the ball got rolling in last fall. So it wasn't just automatic, here's your report, guys, take a look at it.
It's been ongoing for a few years. There was always the argument they could use it they wanted. What did happen now, usually they were pretty good about forwarding the report to our office. But as he said, you know, I'm supposed to be notified when it's being done and invited to the post-inspection sit-down. Just like Captain Pintovel and myself went and met with Dr. Moran and the building administrator, facilities administrator, and we had a very nice discussion and very cooperative. You know, they did work with us, but that's been left out for years. Last year, there's no evidence that we got the copy, and that's what really got us pushing a little more this year. So basically, it came down to is like I finally just sent an email. It says, "Okay, we'll be here then," and we made our own appointment.
Right. Well, the bottom line is they're now cooperating with us. They're trying to be helpful. They're going to correct their issues that they have. We're going to monitor their issues, and you did a fantastic job, and you should thank firefighter Vitarello for also who's code certified for doing great work.
Any other questions, Mary?
Excuse me? Yeah, you can come up and comment.
You were correct in alerting the public that we do provide this service for free, but also we don't charge for violations.
Right.
He doesn't walk around with a ticket book, and there's a downside to this, so it really is a free service that they should take advantage of.
Right,
There's
right.
no downside to it at all.
Right, we're not issuing, and that's a
money.
very good point, we're not issuing code violations like the municipalities would.
There's a lot to be said for that. You know what? It's not about collecting fines. These aren't like parking tickets and stuff. The goal is primarily to correct the problems. You know, even places that do issue summonses, it's usually after repeated attempts, and 90% of the time, what you'll find is by the time you get to court, they fix it and the judge says, okay, done, and there's no fine. Fines are not the purpose. They're not the purpose. I say you're looking for a way to get some additional money, and if we could get some, of the building, some of the, yeah, okay. But that's not the point of it.
Yeah, what Stephen mentioned is, you know, even villages who do issue summonses, it's a very long, drawn-out process. We try to get people to correct them through educating them, not just the schools, whatever the violation is, because it's a long, drawn-out process. I mean, you know, right now we're going through, we have a hoarding problem in one apartment, and we just became aware of it because there was a medical call in the apartment. But apparently the co-ops had this gentleman in court for a year, you know, to try to remove mold, which is obviously a concern. But besides the mold, when we got in there, he was a hoarder also. So the legal process it takes time. We'd rather have people fix it, you know, through education, let them know, especially the building owner saying, you know, this is a problem. You know, you know, we can't guarantee you it's going to burn your building down, but you know what? You know, it's like going to, you know, if you want to go gamble, you want the best odds you can. I don't think you want to gamble with your building or your lives. So that's why we tell people, fix the violations. We're not going to haul you to court. But I think that's the way to go, like Stephen mentioned, is that's what we try to encourage people. I forgot to mention, if any of the residents ever want us, we don't, as a rule, do home inspections for everyone's home, but if anyone is interested, they can always call fire prevention. We try to schedule it, when we can. Some people have questions with children, can I do something differently in my house? They're non-binding. The fire code does not apply to your private home, but we definitely go through it, and we'll tell you, if you're doing something that is potentially dangerous. So the phone number, I don't know if you want to put it on the way, it's 723-2784. 2784. That's the fire prevention office. We're in and out all day, but they can always leave a message. Either myself or Firefighter Vitarella will get back to you. I think it's a worthwhile thing. And even if you live in an apartment, we've inspected apartments for people, if we find anything. Unfortunately, every year, about 3,000 people die in their private residences every year. So I think that's too many people. I should say, I'm sorry, that's nationwide. But the vast majority of people die in residence in their own homes or their apartments. And that's unacceptable.
Elderly and children.
Right.
Mm-hmm. The target audience for that is elderly and children.
Unfortunately. So, and so we encourage you, if you have any questions, you can call us. Even if you don't want us to come by, you can always call us for, with a question. We'll be more than happy to try to help you. And if there's no other questions.
Well, good.
Outstanding.
Outstanding.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. And you can stay and listen, or you can go with either your call. If you don't mind. Okay. Okay.
What, you want to go home?
All right. Yeah, Thursday's code day, right?
Yes, it is.
John Molazari, our Fire District Treasurer, with the Fire District Treasurer's report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight we're going to go over the actual to budget comparison for March. March is the 25% mark on our budget year. We currently sit with a total budget surplus of $758,000. $27,000 of that is on the surplus, is on the revenue side, which consists of two non-recurring items that make up that surplus. 97% approximately of the $757,000 is on the expense side. It represents $731,000, and most of that is timing issues. Such as holiday pay. We haven't paid that out yet, though we budget for it on a monthly basis. Salaries, there are 26 pays in a year. We budget that over 12 months, so we haven't seen any 3-month payrolls yet either. We had some surpluses in certiorari's currently, which is a good thing, hydrants, and fire captain salary. So basically at this time we're in fairly good shape, 25% in. Some of that surplus will be spent as we go through the year. Other matters, the 2014 audit was completed in February of 2015. Copies of the audit, and we did receive an unqualified opinion from the auditors, are available in the business office. Additionally, the annual update document was filed on time back in February. And finally, taxes are due to the district on May 12th.
Okay, and you brushed over lightly the audit. The audit was quite a good document. There was no deficits, it was very clean.
It was very clean.
So congratulations.
And it indicated the surplus that we currently are running with, which allowed us not to borrow this year. So we didn't do a 60-day TAN or whatever we do in past years. We made it through to May without borrowing.
Yeah, so I thought that was good. We need to, hopeful between now and at some time in the end of the year or some point in time, we're probably going to need to bond out for fire trucks for a couple pieces of apparatus, maybe up to 3, and we're probably going to need to bond out to fix one of the firehouses. We left money in our budget to pay for an engineer to come out with a cost estimate last year, but we didn't leave the money in the budget to fix the firehouse. And that'll be a referendum, a voters' referendum if we bond out. It won't be something we do without the voters approving it. And if the voters chose not to bond out the firehouse, well, then there has to be some kind of Plan B, I guess. But in order to go there, we need a rate. The fire district has never had a rating service, never been rated. So we should probably, maybe by next month's meeting, you can come to us with a proposal to get a rating, and I think the board's all in agreement on that.
Yes.
And then we'll approve whoever it is that we need to get a rating from. Our rating should be very high because we have cash. And then Mr. Inkadon will explain the progress we're making on hiring engineers, and we'll try to get that moving forward. So I think the first step is getting a bond rating.
Yeah, and basically the steps to that is hiring a physical advisor that goes out and meets with Moody's, or we meet with Moody's or Standard & Poor's, and we get bids from them, what it's going to cost us to get a credit rating. It doesn't come free. You know, it's probably $10,000 to $12,000 for us just to get that initial credit rating. There's a cost for the lawyer. So, you know, we will start that process and, you know, update the board next month with where we are with that.
Do you use the same law firm we use for the TANs? Remember that law firm?
Yes. Hawkins Delafield? Yeah, they're the major bonding attorney in New York.
Yeah.
You know, they do most municipalities here.
Right. Okay. And I don't know if we can sit down with the rating services and explain it to them, Peter or I, but I don't know. I've done that in the past with
I mean, I've done them in the
world.
past, you know, sit-downs with credit. You know, they're going to look at the financials, they're going to look at the cash, they're going to be extremely happy, you know, that we have that much cash at the moment. And it'll help the rating, which will then, in effect, help our interest rate as we go down the road.
Okay.
You know, we'll get a lower rate, the higher the rating.
Okay, so that was the report. The audit was good. That was perfect and on time. All good. And we had one other issue that you got a letter from the controllers, from the town attorney, Mr. Rita.
Yeah.
And the town is demanding payment for the, now this is confusing, it's the outside the village's hydrant cost. So we used to reimburse the village of Bronxville and the town of Eastchester some percentage of their hydrant bill. But since the village of Bronxville and the village of Tuckahoe have shifted that cost exclusively to the water user, those residents of Tuckahoe and Bronxville are no longer paying, are now paying on their quarterly water bill, you know, a supplemental charge of $30 or something to pay for hydrants. So we had a communication back and forth with the town saying we don't know if this bill's appropriate for us to pay with town-wide money to pay for an Eastchester town outside hydrant bill. They've sent us a letter, they sent you the letter, and they want you to pay the bill. So what we've did is we've taken that letter and we responded to it, our attorneys have, and we also submitted our information, an opinion request. The law firm has submitted an information request to the Controller's Office Legal Department to see if it's appropriate for us to pay a bill with money from Village of Bronxville, Village of Tuckahoe residents when they're not getting any of the service. So that's how the board has handled that. We've taken that and we sent it to the Controller's Office Legal Department, and we're asking them for an opinion. And you may need to set aside the monies in an escrow or something, because we're not, until we get a formal answer, but we don't want to spend legal time and money litigating with each other, which I think was that kind of the point of their letter.
I mean, the money's in the budget to pay it. It's just a matter, you know, getting the opinion and deciding if we're going to pay it. You know,
Right, because we have no contract. Right now, we can't find the formal contract. And so we requested from them if they could give us a formal contract. I don't know if they have one. We've asked the Village of Bronxville to see if they have one. But we're not reimbursed Bronxville anymore, because Bronxville's not asking because they know that the residents are paying. So
Same thing with Tuckahoe, right?
Tuckahoe's never asked for the money.
Okay, but they're doing the same thing. They're charging it directly to the,
Yeah, Tuckahoe passed the law to charge it right to the Tuckahoe residents. This is only in Westchester County. It's a law that affects Westchester County. It's not an unsubstantial amount of money town-wide for hydrants. You're talking town-wide is probably $1.5 million that levy to everyone the way it falls down. I think it's about $1,000 a year per hydrant. How many hydrants are there, Mike? 750?
Actually, I think we're close to $1,200 per hydrant.
And there's about 750?
With just about 750 hydrants.
Yeah, so that's $1 million. So $1 million is getting charged to our residents. 2/3 of them, Bronxville and Tuckahoe, through their bill. Town of Eastchester is paying currently all but 28%, and I think they're asking us for 28%. I think that was the number, maybe it was 35%. So that's what that is. Okay, anything else? John, thank you very much, all good. Excellent report. And these reports we get from John, I say every month, are about 50 pages. They detail everything you could possibly want to know about our expenses, how we use the money, how it's allocated, and what it looks like. So, and it's very good. Okay, let me go back to we have committee reports, career, Mr. Baker?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay. Volunteers?
I'll defer to you.
Okay, refer to me. We have on the agenda, I put down on the agenda, we would like to get more information from the volunteers about when they hold functions, who's paying for the function, whether people are buying tickets, raffle tickets are sold. Your normal, very simple, I have a list here, is like number of tickets sold, the cost of each, because I think they have recently had a function with about 80 people attended. And I just would like to know who paid for it, who was asked to buy tickets, and if the thing made money, where does the money go? And if it costs money, who paid for it? So your normal questions, because basically the board has a duty to oversee the operations of the volunteers. So that I'll just make on that comment. I'm sure when the volunteers come up, they'll talk to me about it. Other thing with the volunteers, I went through, and this was rather time-consuming on some very cold days in March. I went through there's something called exempt certifications, and we have these books in the firehouse, and they go back to the 1940s. And we have about 5 of them that I could find. And so they're, when somebody who was a volunteer, and it's a great thing to go through the books because you see what families volunteered a lot in town. And you got a number of families where members of the families all volunteered at different times for the department, going back to the 20s. These books have the list of everyone. And so these exempt books, when somebody put their time in as a volunteer, there's something called General Municipal Law, I think it's Section 200, where it describes how you can get exempt status. Exempt status is a privilege that the state gives to people who serve 5 years as a volunteer. Or somebody's moving out of the district, or they're no more able to be a volunteer, they apply for exempt status. It's basically an honorable discharge like you would have in the armed forces. Okay. So I went through and I put all the names into an Excel spreadsheet. And it came out to be about, I'm looking for what I do with the sheet, it came out to be about 500 names. And we haven't issued any exempt certificates since 2003. Up until that, we were issuing exempt certificates every year from, call it 1950 to 2003. So for some reason in 2003, we stopped issuing exempt certificates. So, what I think which is good now is we have this list. So when somebody comes in for a claim and they say there's a death benefit or something, Mike has to verify the death benefit. He can go to my sheets and quickly find out where these people are in these 6 books. So it's like that. It's about 30 pages or 25 pages of, and we sorted it by name and when they were here. And some of them go back to the 20s. So what I'd like to do is also go back to the active, and so go back to the files, because these aren't updated exactly, and get everybody who was a volunteer in the Eastchester Fire Department and put them in there. So we have a complete exact list, whoever were volunteers, because we have card files now that are not that useful. Because we kept on going back and forth on the volunteers to say, give me an active list of volunteers. So what I did was I went in and I took off the active list of card files and I typed that up, which was another arduous task. So I have about 70 names in here who they view as active in the card files. The problem with that is I would think many of these people have passed already, because the average age on this is 67 years old with a number of years of service 42. So it's clear we have some maintenance to do on these records. because I think the number is closer to a half a dozen people who are active members, if there is that. So Deputy Chief Medina, I sent this to him, he's been very helpful, and we've been going back and forth information, so I'm hopeful we can get an active list of who the volunteers are, clean up these files, and then ask people who are exempt to put in their exempt paperwork, and we'll give them exempt certificates. And we clean that up. I think that's, and then we'll have a list if somebody comes in and says, hey, was my father a volunteer here, or my grandfather a volunteer here, we'll be very quickly able to tell them when he was a volunteer and between what years. You know, so it's, I think it's good. So that's what we've done there. All right, so now, Happiness, Aratus, Mr. Inkledon, you have some stuff to tell us.
Sure. Starting with Tuckahoe. The project is out for bid. We're currently in the stage right now where potential bidders are asking questions, which the engineer is responding to. The assistant chief has been coordinating the information flow between the district, the bidders, and the engineer. Has been doing a fine job. At this point, we have, we think, 6 or 7 firms that are going to submit bids on May 11th, which is the due date. Preliminary, background checks on these guys indicate that most, if not all of them, will meet our qualification requirements, and we'll have bona fide bids from 6 or 7 firms, which is good on a project of this size. It's going to basically ensure that we have, depth and breadth in our bidding pool, and hopefully result in a competitive price for the district. Again, the bids are due on the 11th. We hope to award the contract that week. We'll see how that goes, but that is what we expect will happen. And then the work will commence sometime in late June or early July, and we have roughly a 1-month construction period. So that's where that project stands.
Chester Heights.
Chester Heights. As far as Chester Heights goes, we mentioned we were going to try to get a study done this year. We reserved the money to do a full-blown facilities condition assessment project on that particular firehouse. At this point, we've coordinated with 2 highly qualified architectural and engineering firms, and we expect to get proposals from those 2 firms by the end of next week. One is a regional firm. One of the principals actually lives in Eastchester. The other is an international firm. They do a lot of work in this area. Both have, extensive experience specifically with firehouses. The plan right now is to kind of get those proposals, review them. If the board, decides that we, like the proposals and we want to go with one of those firms, we'll potentially vote to do so. If not, we'll probably contact a couple of other firms and get proposals from them. And we'll keep everybody updated as that process moves along.
Right, because it is, we went through the building today for a couple of hours, and it's, it has its challenges, but at the end of the day, it is a well-constructed building. It may have its challenges, but it is a well-put-together building. So.
Sorry, I do have some of that information you asked about for today.
Okay.
Called up, but yeah, I have it in the car. It was a little much to carry in one thing.
Okay, so so that was that. So we're moving along on those projects. Budget and finance, I don't have anything to add. Mr. Molnar gave a great report. Health and wellness, we've been going back and forth trying to get a date resolved. I've been traveling a bit. Jerry's been traveling a bit. And so we haven't been able to resolve a date. I'll be around for the next 6 weeks a lot. I won't be around, but I'll be around the next 6 weeks. So hopefully we can get a date together. And projects that we're working on for special projects, Anthony, do we have anything that's within there right now, right?
I didn't have anything. I just got one thing that someone came up to me and spoke to me, and it was, I don't think you probably even want to hear it, but he said, an individual, prominent citizen of this town, he said he took a peek in the firehouse in North End and saw the basement area, how it was not completed very well. And he thought for all the money and time and different contracts we lost, the results downstairs in that firehouse is horrible.
Okay, well, I don't think I don't know if the membership shares that view.
Well,
People
no,
have
I'm
to use
just
it.
telling you, I did last month rather, and it's just a coincidence someone come up and told me about that.
Yeah.
But I have a few other things I wanted to mention to you, if you want me to mention them now, or you want me to
You might
mention
as well
them
mention it
under...
now.
That memorial service at Tuckahoe High School has been changed to May 26th at 9:30 on the field. Okay? And our Memorial Day Parade is May 25th at 10 a.m., and it's going from the Town Hall of Eastchester down Mill Road and up 22 towards the monument on 22, right next to the cemetery over there. That's on May 25th. I think Tommy's going to speak on our memorial service, but Chief, are you aware, I think it's June 6th, that part of Marbledale Road is going to be closed for a car show?
No, I'm not aware. They actually did that last year, and
Yeah, not the whole part of Marbledale Road, but there's going to be a portion, so I just thought
it happened last year, and we found out by chance.
Yeah, well, I got word of it, Tuesday night, and I think it's from 10 until 5. I'm not certain on the hours, but it's June 6th. So just, beware of
It
that.
happened last year, we found out by chance.
Pardon me?
Saturday, right?
June 6th is a Saturday, yes. But I just want to know, just in case there's an alarm, that rigs don't go different ways and find out that the road is closed.
It does help to be notified.
Okay, so...
I don't know who's organizing it.
I think it's,
I took issue with it last year because nobody bothered to.
I know he's not doing it alone, but it's Mr. Cachola and on Marbledale Road, and there's another people that are organizing with him. He's got the insurance, he's got everything.
Right, no, but, it would be nice whether it's somebody from the village, whoever authorizes the permit, because obviously you have to get a permit.
The village board authorized it the other night at Monday's board meeting. So I just thought I'd bring it to your attention.
More often than not, we will receive notification from the police that morning. So.
Yeah. Okay, anything else there, Tony?
No, right now, no.
Okay, so, new business, anybody have any new business? We did the school inspection report. Stephen Radalone? No report. No report? Volunteer firefighters, anything?
Commissioner Laurie mentioned memorial services Sunday, May the 24th, 8:30 Mass at the Church of the Assumption, 100 Pleasant in Tuckahoe.
What time? Excuse me.
Oh, and also, we have a memorial service at the monument afterwards, after the service at the church, and the veterans are doing a rifle squad for us, and then we have breakfast at the Quarry Inn.
Okay, what's the date of the
24th of May.
Memorial Day weekend you're doing it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Memorial Day.
I will apologize now, I will not be in town.
Okay.
Usually it's the week before Memorial Day, but there was
I
confusion.
just want you to know, I always attend, and that's why when you said that, I'm shocked. I will be out of town for a wedding.
Yeah, there was
I apologize now, I will not be.
What time is it?
8:30.
8:30? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, board member comments?
I would say that, if there's a board meeting that you want to watch on videotape, this would probably be a good one because of Captain Pintavale's very thorough presentation here today. So it's certainly worthwhile.
And to watch our meetings outside the normal cable TV, you can go to YouTube and type in Eastchester FD in YouTube, and all our meetings are posted on YouTube, so you can watch them at any time. And so, yeah, when anybody who wants to watch a meeting, just go to Eastchester FD on YouTube. Just type in Eastchester FD on YouTube, and you'll find our meetings.
Could we also find out why this meeting or any other meeting takes so long before it comes on TV so the public could see it?
The technology has to be copied over to a disk, which we deliver to the town, and then the town puts them on their, and I noticed they've been putting them on at 3 o'clock in the morning at times. I mean, if people have a hard time sleeping, maybe these are good
Must-see
meetings to
TV.
watch. But, yeah, we haven't been exactly on prime time now and then in the town, but, yeah, it's just a timing thing. But they do stay up, because our meetings will stay up that much longer the next month, right? So that's that. And I do agree that, there was one comment that the fire inspector made that most people don't realize, and I'll mention it to you: if you have home lawnmowers and snow blowers and chainsaws and small gas devices, you want to run those dry at the end of the season, because the ethanol in the gas rots the tubes on the fuel supply lines. If you don't run your snow blowers dry at the end of the season, you will come back next year to find out the ethanol has lot. There's a way of avoiding that, and that's by cans of tool fuel. But tool fuel is expensive, and most people don't do it. But your chainsaws, your snow blowers, your generators, portable small generators, they will not work if you leave them too long with ethanol in them. So run them dry. He mentioned it, that they did it at the school.
As you mentioned that, yes, run them dry. Do not dump it down the drain.
Right.
Which we have had serious calls because of that. Burn it off. Do not dump it.
Right. And we did have a number of gas calls for that same. Okay, so we did board member comments, now we have payment of bills.
Pay the bills.
I'll ask, anybody in the public want to address the board? Okay, the fire district election news, we're waiting on the New York State Senate to vote on our proposal. It passed the Assembly, we're waiting for the Senate, and we're waiting for the governor to eventually sign it when it passes the Senate. When that'll be, I don't know. So, can I have the bill right there?
Those are all down there.
We have two sets of warrants because these are big warrants too. It's 2 stacks. John, is it 1 stack or 2 stacks as far as warrants? 2 warrants. I have your first page.
Yeah.
I have your second page.
Yeah.
Signatures left page.
What's that?
Signature page?
Yeah. Okay, so we have 2 sets of warrants. One is April 11th for a total of, John, you have 2 numbers here. One is the 209 and the total 209? Yep, okay. So $209,534.22. $209,534 spot 22. And I'll have a motion to pay this bill.
Make the motion to pay those bills.
Peter Inkledon, and a second.
Second?
Stephen Baker, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the second set of warrants, we're paying $326,122.05. And those are the warrants of April 22nd, $326,122.05. A motion is hopefully Mr. Inkledon, make that motion. Mr. Baker,
Sure.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we paid the bills. Any closing comments or anything? Okay. So,
And just on closing comment, just want to remind the public, don't forget Memorial Day is coming up next month. It's just a little time of your own to pay some respect to our fallen comrades. Everybody always says we have barbecues, we have other things to do. We're going to Aunt Susie's house, out into the island. It's just one day a year to give a little respect to the fallen comrades. You got all summer from June 1st until later part of September to run out to a barbecue or wherever have you. Just 1 hour of little respect to show for the men who never came home.
okay.
Thank you.
And that's all I have. And hopefully, on the agenda, there's a list of items that we would be looking for, and hopefully by next month's meeting, between now and next month's meeting, the volunteers can find a way to give us that information. If they can't for some reason, they can just tell us why they can't, and that'll be that. Both sets have to be signed. I couldn't find, you had the other set.
Oh, you get the other sheet? I didn't sign that one.
Okay.
Is that it?
Okay,
I make a
so-
motion that we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And thank you for all attending.